Hi, Mike King here of realnewsandhistory.com, and this is episode 1 of a multi-part series titled The Rise and Fall of the New World Order Cabal. And it's important that you watch all these in order as I put them together, because we're going to go in chronological sequence starting in the late 1700s right on up to the present day. But before we begin this discussion of the New World Order conspiracy, it's important to define what it is in a nutshell. And this is right from my book, which you should pick up a copy at Amazon. I'll put the link down below. Crash Course NWO, 250 Years of Globalist Conspiracy in just 1 hour. It's a 1-hour read. And the purpose of this series is to, that serves as a framework, a skeleton. This will put some meat on the bones, this series. But in the very beginning, I defined the New World Order very concisely. And then we build upon it to show what it is and what it's done to us for this last quarter of a millennium. So what is the New World Order? The New World Order is a centuries-old conspiracy to corrupt, weaken, and finally overthrow Western civilization and establish global totalitarianism upon the economic and cultural ruins of the entire planet. At the core of this effort is an immense and intricate network of bankers, media moguls, political operatives, academics, and intelligence agencies. The cabal bosses have long been disproportionately, but not exclusively, Jewish. Think of it as a Jewish mafia with helpers. In order to advance the ultimate agenda, the cabal uses racial hatred, mainly against whites, national rivalries, religious differences, perpetual debt, war, diseases, terrorism, communism, atheism, Satanism, Zionism, environmentalism, feminism, and immorality of all forms as methods for degrading and wearing down humanity. Along their journey from underground plotters to above the clouds masters, the cabal has ruined or murdered many who have dared to oppose them or just simply refused to obey them. After World War II and up until recent years, the plotters had seemed invincible, but the rise of Donald Trump, backed by a worldwide military intelligence and special operations alliance, has weakened the cabal. And most people remained blissfully unaware of this invisible war. So there's your definition right there. And, you know, they've even got their own symbolism, which if you begin to look closer, you'll see they put it right in your face, and they have for a long time. For example, here's the back of a $1 bill. You see that pyramid with the all-seeing eyeball on top? And it says, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New Order for the Ages. E pluribus unum, out of many, one. And then on the reverse side, you see this, the eagle, and the shield is really an upside-down menorah. And on top, you see a Star of David. The stars, which represent the supposedly the 13 colonies, are configured in such a way that it forms the Star of David. So it's right there in your face. The all-seeing eyeball and the pyramid, those are symbols of the New World Order. And now that you know that, you'll see them in many places, and you'll see people using the hand gestures. Most prominent examples would be the logo for CBS. All right? CBS TV network, CBS News, the all-seeing eyeball. AOL is the eyeball inside of the pyramid. Okay? After the cabal destroyed the Twin Towers, and then they rebuilt the One World Trade Center, they called it. The tower which they put in its place is called One World Trade Center. Not one as in address. It's named One World Trade Center. And embedded in it, you see these elongated pyramids. So they embedded that pyramid structure right into the One World Trade Center. And here you see dozens of images. There's hundreds, actually. You'll see celebrities most often doing this nonsense with the one eye in the pyramid. You know, Jay-Z and Beyonce, Justin Bieber. There's a whole bunch of them. They all do that. I'm sure you've seen it. But now you know what it means, because they're part of the clique. Hollywood and the entertainment industry is a very important element of the cabal. So That's their symbol, and that's their agenda. What I'm going to do now for the rest of this episode is just read you quotes from very important, famous men, powerful men in high positions, openly advocating for the one world government. So by doing this, it's not Mike King saying this. These people are admitting it. Because generally speaking, when they speak or write amongst themselves, they're quite open about their agenda, even though from the public is generally concealed. So let's start with Woodrow Wilson, the 28th president of the United States. And he was president during World War I. World War I was engineered for the specific purpose of bringing about international structures. We'll get into that later on. But at the end of the war, he began pushing for the League of Nations, and he kept speaking openly about a new international order. He never specifically said one world government, but this is what he meant. And here's just one quote out of many. We believe that our own desire for a new international order under which the common interests of mankind shall prevail is the desire of enlightened men everywhere. Without that new order of the world, will be without peace and human life, will lack tolerable conditions of existence and development. Having set our hand to the task of achieving it, we shall not turn back. H.G. Wells, famous British author of The Time Machine, The Invisible Man, The Day the Earth Stood Still, British Fabian socialist, actually wrote a book called The New World Order. And that's what it's about. And this was a non-fictional book. Most of his books were works of fiction, but he's talking about the one world government. He also had another book called The Open Conspiracy, because that's exactly what this is. It's an open conspiracy. It's concealed. They downplay it. They don't publicize it. But at the same time, if you want to look for the evidence of it, you can if you want to do a little work. But listen to what he writes about the coming New World Order. This is in 1939 from his book, The New World Order. When the struggle seems to be drifting towards a world social democracy, there may still be very great delays and disappointments before it becomes an efficient world system. Countless people will hate the New World Order and will die protesting against it. When we attempt to evaluate its promise, we have to bear in mind the distress of a generation or so of malcontents. So that's in 1939. He's saying it's still going to be a very long haul to get to this new world order, this one world government, and there's going to be a lot of opposition to it. Albert Einstein, this puffed up pseudoscientific charlatan. Time magazine named him the man of the century, the 20th century. He was a communist. He left Germany when Hitler came to power. Total one-worlder and a globalist. He's got to be the most hyped up individual of the 20th century. Think about it. But there's a reason. And what the cabal does is they recruit people from the world of science and entertainment, and in the modern day, even sports. Anybody in a position where they can influence many others, they'll recruit them and they'll promote them. And that's why Einstein was hyped as much as he was, is because he was one of them. But this is right from the New York Times, June 23rd, 1940. Headline, Einstein predicts an armed league. Says that Wilson's work will be revived by nations in a more powerful form. He's alluding to Woodrow Wilson. And this is Einstein speaking, quote, Woodrow Wilson's work will be created, in my opinion, in a more powerful form. Then will the importance of this great innovator be fully recognized. A worldwide organization cannot ensure peace effectively unless it has control over the entire military power of its members. A federal organization of the nations of the world is an absolute necessity if the conditions on our planet are not to become unbearable. In my opinion, the only salvation for the human race lies in the creation of a world government. And that's always been their pitch. It's going to be a disaster, whether it's the fear of a Cold War going nuclear, right? World War III, or climate change or COVID. It's always a disaster, and the solution to this disaster is all the nations coming together. That's the scam. That's the essence of the scam. And here's an image of the article right there, New York Times. Mike King brings receipts. Nobody can refute any of what I say here. These are all real quotes, not taken out of context. Openly supporting one world government and acknowledging the existence of this movement. So nobody can call this conspiracy theory. These are big men. Here's another big one. The Republican candidate for president in 1940, Wendell Willkie, they set him up as a patsy to basically lay down and lose and allow Franklin Roosevelt to be elected a third time and then manipulate the country into World War II. So to do that, they put up this patsy, Wendell Willkie. There he is on the cover of Time magazine. And he plays out his role as a straw man, and he loses to Roosevelt, and then Roosevelt gives him a job in his administration. And then he goes on in 1943 to write a book titled One World by Wendell Willkie, Republican nominee for president, 1940. Oh, here's a big one, another one of these giants of the 20th century. Winston Churchill. I wrote a book about him, The British Mad Dog. What a piece of shit, alcoholic, homosexual, pedosexual warmonger he was. You can have a look at that book. That one's on Amazon too. Or you can get everything as part of the PDF package at the website, realnewsandhistory.com. But Winston Churchill, big advocate of one world government. And that's what World War II was all about. Taking out Hitler and Mussolini and Japan and all the countries that were nationalistic and not wanting to be a part of this world system. And there's actually video on this. I mean, I got receipts for all of this. This is Churchill talking. We must recreate the European family in a regional structure called as it may be the United States of Europe. That's your European Union. And he's saying this in like late 1940s. This indispensable structure of regional groupings is coming into being. In this way alone can the skeletal structure of world government be clothed with the flesh and blood of a living organism. And he gave that speech in, I think it was Brussels, but it was a globalist conference. But there's video of it. So you see, when you're speaking to the public, they don't speak this openly. They generally will use euphemisms like the international community, or world human rights, stuff like that. But amongst themselves, it's straight up. They we're building a world government. So that's Churchill's own words. Okay? Big men acknowledging this movement. So there's no doubt about it. Here's another one. Milton Eisenhower. There he is on the cover of Time magazine. He's the brother of former General Dwight Eisenhower. He's not only his brother, but President Eisenhower himself was proud to say that he's very close to his brother, considers him his top advisor. He was a total one-worlder, pro-UN guy. Here's an article from the Chicago Tribune, February 10th, 1952. Headline, Brother Milton, a worry to aides of Eisenhower. He was a worry because he wore his left-wing radicalism, Marxism on his sleeve. And so some of the pro-Eisenhower people were concerned that this would stick to Eisenhower. In the article, there's a quote, in his United Nations service, Milton Eisenhower advocated for a mighty UN military force as the sole means to peace, holding that the force should be larger than that of any member state or likely combination of member states. He wanted the United Nations to supersede any other country, including America, in terms of power. Professor Carol Quigley, big name academic, Georgetown University. Bill Clinton was one of his students. That's why I have Clinton's picture up here. And at the 1992 Democrat Party convention, Bill Clinton gave a shout out to a professor I had named Carol Quigley. Well, in a book called Tragedy and Hope, Quigley writes, quote, there does exist and there has existed for a generation an international network which operates to some extent in the way that the radical right believes that the communists act. I know of the operations of this network because I've studied it for 20 years and was permitted for 2 years to examine its secret records. The powers of financial capitalism had a far-reaching aim to create a world system of financial control in private hands, able to dominate the political system of each country and the economy of the world as a whole. The system was to be controlled by the central banks of the world, acting in concert by secret agreement. So, he wrote this book for his fellow academics. And then some right-wing conservative activists got a hold of it, and they took some of the excerpts from it and circulated it. And it became much more better known. So it's like he let the cat out of the bag. But that's how these characters speak, again, amongst themselves. President George H.W. Bush, remember him? Okay. After when he waged war against Iraq the first time on some bullshit pretext that Iraq had invaded Kuwait, he kept speaking about a new world order constantly. And he said before Congress, we now see a new world coming into view, a world in which there's a very real prospect of a new world order. We are in sight of a United Nations that performs as envisioned by its founders. Walter Cronkite, perhaps the most well-known journalist, TV anchorman of the period between 1970 and 1990s. He was the anchorman of the CBS Evening News, and back in those days, you only had 3 networks. So and CBS News had by far the largest market share. So he had a captive audience. Everybody watched Walter, and they hung on his every word. And this image is Walter Cronkite. He's receiving an award from the World Federalist Association, which openly advocates for one world government. They don't even conceal it. And then Hillary Clinton, by video feed, comes in and congratulates him on receiving the award. And Cronkite said, and there's video of this, we must strengthen the United Nations as a first step towards a world government with a legislature, executive, and judiciary, and a police force to enforce international law. We Americans are going to have to yield some of our sovereignty. That's going to be, to many, a bitter pill to swallow. Today, we must develop federal structures on a global level. We need a system of enforceable world law, a democratic federal world government. This is 1999, and he got his One World Government Award. And then Hillary Clinton comes in by video and says, good evening and congratulations, Walter, on receiving the World Federalist Association's Global Governance Award. So again, you can't get any bigger and more well-known and famous and connected than these names I'm giving you here. Cronkite, Hillary, Churchill, Einstein, one after another, Woodrow Wilson, Milton Eisenhower. We want one world government. Here's Bathhouse Barry Obongo. He says, now is the time to join together through constant cooperation, strong institutions, shared sacrifice, our sacrifice, not his, and a global commitment to progress. All nations must come together to build a stronger global regime. There's that piece of shit installed by George Soros himself. Oh, here's another beauty, another big name, Angela Merkel, Chancellor of Germany for, I don't know how many years, 12 years, 16 years. She was there forever. The frumpy Frau, I call her. She looks like Frankenstein in drag. Oh, I hate that bitch. She said, quote, nation states must, today, I say, be ready to give up sovereignty. Countries who think they can solve everything on their own only think about themselves. Pope Francis, the recently departed, good riddance to him, the fake Pope Francis. He was installed by the cabal, and he promoted one worldism in the global warming hoax and the open borders to the faithful. And he said, quote, there is an urgent need of a true world political authority. One authoritative source of oversight and coordination is the law, which lays down rules for admissible conduct in the light of the common good, openly calling for one world government. And when he was first named Pope, there he is on the cover of Time magazine. All of a sudden, they love the Catholic Church all of a sudden, because they got one of their communists in there. But if you could see the subtitle, New World Pope. So here's another, that was another one. And there's so many. I actually have a whole booklet on it. You'll see it at realnewsandhistory.com. It's in booklet form. It's also part of the PDF package. It's called Proofs of the New World Order. It's got these quotes and about 30 more, all big people. And then on the other side, I should mention there's people opposing it. And in contemporary times, in particular, these two, Vladimir Putin and Donald Trump. Putin says this: the unipolar world, that's the one world, refers to a world in which there is one master, one sovereign, one center of authority, one center of force, one center of decision making. This is pernicious. At its basis, there can be no moral foundations for modern civilization. And not to be outdone, Donald Trump says, quote, we will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism. My foreign policy will always put the interests of the American people and American security above all else. America first will be the major overriding theme of my administration. And now you know why Trump and Putin have been so vilified and demonized in the fake news media, which is controlled by the cabal. You understand that, so many other things begin to click. So we have now established what the New World Order is, and we have shown beyond any reasonable doubt that this movement does indeed exist by quoting all these powerful people who are part of it and helping to advance it. And of course, in the case of Putin and Trump, trying to kill it. Okay, so please, again, like this video, follow me on the Rumble channel. There's also a button there that allows you to share it on your social media. And if you enjoy these talks, continue to support my work. There's a support donation link below. And get a hold of my books. realnewsandhistory.com. You'll see a books and PDF section. Crash Course NWO, 250 Years of Globalist Conspiracy, just 1 hour. That's what all this is based on. So this series, which might be 40, 50 parts by the time I'm done, is going to enhance this. So get this book and my other books, and whatever you can do to support me, and most important, share this video with others so we can get this whole series viral. And I'm going to have a master link on the bottom to an internet page at my website where all of these episodes will be listed, and you need to watch them in chronological order. That's all I got for today. Thank you.